live, and we're a little bit behind schedule, I guess.
I know. We had such a good conversation going. We were talking about Shane's stupid trades, and then trading Tua Tagovailoa for or getting him for Diggs.
In a super flex, that's a smash.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Tua's a Tao, however his fucking name is. He's easily a top 12 quarterback.
Ooh,
that's an interesting definition of easily.
Easily, because he's going to smash next year.
He's going to be good.
He's fine. I'm not like averse to Tua. I don't trade Diggs for Tua. That's craziness.
You would have done that a year ago at this time.
Probably not. Maybe.
Yeah, you would have.
Dude, don't lie. Lying.
No, because I don't value quarterbacks.
Well, then
quarterbacks don't have a hold on me because I don't want to be. I'm not Christian taking Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Lock at the 7-8 turn.
Well, no, that's just silly.
It had to happen though. It had to. It was bad. It was getting really.
It didn't
bad.
have to happen. I still have one quarterback. It's round 11. I'm chilling with Tannehill.
I feel like Christian, you didn't read my fucking excellent article on DLF.
And no one reads your excellent article, Shane.
Well, dude, they got a lot of comments, you jerk off, so they do.
Okay, well, fine. The people who do comment sections read your articles. That's who you want. That's your audience.
Look, I'm old, okay? People my age.
I bet they're on Facebook, too.
I do put it on Facebook. And then I go to MySpace, and I'm like, what's up, Tom? And I put it on there. But I did an excellent article.
Did you say what's up, Tom?
Yeah.
he does put it in the fantasy football discussion pages. I've seen that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And anyway, so the whole point of the article is it's okay to overdraft the elite quarterbacks, but do not be overdrafting Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Lock and Daniel Jones and who turn into Mitchell Trubisky and, Sam Darnold and all that good stuff.
Well, you see, So I would have been either rostering. I guess I expected Dalton and Fitz to come off the board as well, but
they're still there.
My only quarterback was Justin Fields. I had no other options, so I panicked hard. But I'll take Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock will be good.
Panicked real hard.
And by good, I mean like only okay.
Should we hit the fancy music?
Yeah. Should we actually start this show?
Are
you guys done bickering for at least this segment of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's go.
It's called a cold open.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
That.
I was just singing the rest of our song.
Wow, continue. Please don't stop on my account. That was lovely.
There's literally all the lyrics. I got nothing else.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a draft season edition of our Tuesday show here that still remains somewhat uncertainly named Turn Up Tuesday. We've got a fun crew today. I'm back, of course, with Chase and Shane. And our special guest today is Christian Williams, co-host of the Devi Royale podcast, director of operations over at The Cut. Christian, let's start with you. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well, man. It's definitely a busy season. I tweeted out today I'm doing a clubhouse call tomorrow. I talked about doing a clubhouse call this weekend, and our podcast is in the thick of finishing a draft guide. So definitely busy hours these days, but I'm having a good time.
Absolutely. This is the best time. Shane, how are you doing right now?
I'm doing well. My young Padawan. I'm good, man. The draft's coming up.
Can you ever start like 5 minutes into a show without just saying like that I'm either young or that I say words funny because I'm Canadian?
No, I mean, it's kind of my thing. Like, look, I only remember two things about you. You're young and you're Canadian. Half the time I don't remember your name. Like, when I'm telling people like about the show, because we don't even have an actual name for the show. I'm like, oh, it's some show I do on Tuesdays with this young Canadian guy and Chase. Like, I'm horrible. Like, I don't even know the name of the show, anyone's handles. I don't remember your names, but I'm doing great. I am doing great.
Jeez, Shane.
Chase, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, everything's phenomenal. Just getting everything set up for the draft. Ready to rock and roll, baby. Ready to rock and roll and get everything, I guess, put into place. Because as Christian and I were talking before you guys actually came in, it's been a mess trying to figure out these pro days. It has been an absolute mess.
God, yeah.
And I am going to be so relieved when we just get the landing spots. We can talk about, where certain players are going to end up.
That's going to be a big relief because I think we've all experienced it. Like, we're going crazy. We're arguing about all these prospects. I don't think anyone's getting any new information. I think the pro days are pretty much wrapped up. Everything we're going to get, we've got. We don't even have the same information because we don't know what to do with 40 times. We don't know, if they matter, if they're accurate, if they're adjusted, if they're frame by frame, whatever. It's a mess. But we got a great show tonight. We're going to break down a few things. We're going to talk about the Darnold trade, of course, because that just happened. We're also proud to be joined by, now, is it a self-appointment or a democratic election that you became president of the Justin Fields fan club?
Man, I feel like it was self-inflicted, but I think it was definitely an election. But yes.
So we got the president of the Justin Fields fan club, and or at least, well, maybe the co-president, but the self-inflicted president of the Justin Fields fan club. We're going to talk about Fields. We're going to talk about why, a lot of people on fantasy Twitter have him as the QB2, why Christian has him as the QB1, yet maybe he's going to be like the QB4 off the board. Why does the NFL love Mac Jones so much? We're going to talk about Pitts today. Kyle Pitts, everyone's favorite prospect. Everyone agrees he's awesome. How high should you actually take him? And most of all, see that beautiful yellow bar at the bottom. Hit us with those questions because we want to hear from you. Is there a pro day that you want to talk about? Is there a prospect you don't think we've covered yet that you want to hear about? Any questions for us? If you have questions about Shane's personal life, make sure to fire those in, especially really inappropriate ones. So any of that stuff we'll happily address. But first off, news of the week: Sam Darnold has been freed. A quarterback that came into the league very young, very full of promise. People were very emotionally attached to Sam Darnold. He was subjected to the Adam Gase curse over the last couple of years. Now that he's in Carolina, is it going to be a fresh start for Sam Darnold? What do you think of this for Sam? And is he someone that you'd be really happy with, as a quarterback in Dynasty and just in an NFL sense? What do you think of this trade too? Let's start with Christian as the guest here, and then we'll throw this around.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely bake some bias into how I view Darnold, but I think there's still, we've seen the flashes. We know that Darnold has the ability. I think Matt Rule and Joe Brady's offense is almost perfectly tailored for him. Although I think that the Mike LaFleur offense that they were about to run was even more perfect. I think this had to happen. I think that he and the Jets were already done. You can see how excited he is to be in Charlotte when he got into that nice giant mansion. I saw the video today.
Just way more excited than anyone's ever been to be in Charlotte, I think.
Very true. Yeah. So I think it's definitely good to have a clean break. I think Darnold's probably their starter, at least for this year, sure. Because then they'll definitely have to make a decision. In terms of how they draft, I don't know if we want to get into that, but I don't think quarterback's off the board. I know a lot of people do. I don't know that they're committing to Sam Darnold yet. I think it's more of this is a pretty cheap flyer. Let's go get him.
Shane, I see you making faces. What was the cause of those faces, and what do you think about Darnold in Charlotte?
I'm on mute. I was on airyards.com. I was trying to look up Robbie Anderson's air yards with New York when Sam Darnold was.
While you're on the show, Shane, for those real-time analytics.
But couldn't find it because the air yards. I'm getting an error. But anyway,
error yards.
Error yards. There you go. Yeah, error yards. That's
great radio.
We're starting that website up.
Well, that's why you should listen live.
Yeah. Look, you invited me on the show. All right, I'm actually on the show. Never mind. Amon St. Brown. Yeah, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Anyway, so the Darnold trade. Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, he's still what? He's still just 23 years old. Your only hope, or the only thing you're hoping against, is that Adam Gase hasn't so ruined him that he's ruined. Which, it can happen. We've seen it to young quarterbacks before that just get beat to shit and they never recover from it. It's just hard to recover from. But it's night and day, the weapons he's going to have. I mean, CMC, it's really nice when you can dump off a pass to a running back and he can take it 70 yards for a touchdown. Or you have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who are excellent wide receivers. Ian Thomas is on the team. And maybe they draft Kyle Pitts at what are they, 9? 8? Yeah, maybe they draft Kyle Pitts, and then I'll be talking about Sam Darnold as a mid-tier QB2. That's his upside.
Chase, what do you think of Darnold? And especially this offseason, I mean, we've seen Jared Goff switch to the Lions. We've seen Carson Wentz go to the Colts. What do you think of Sam Darnold, and how would you compare him to some of those other younger quarterbacks where, it didn't work out, obviously, where they first were, but some of those highly drafted quarterbacks? What do you think of Darnold? Would you prefer Darnold to a Wentz or to a Goff, or who would you take amongst those?
I mean, honestly, I think that Sam Darnold has a tremendous amount of upside. By the way, big shout out to Jeff in the chat, who's probably going to fight Christian to the death over who is the president of the Justin Fields fan club. But as per Darnold, right? We're sitting there and we're looking at a quarterback who, by the way, had a 77.5 completion percentage with a clean pocket, which was 6th best in the NFL. He had the 37th best protection rate in 2020. Meanwhile, Teddy Bridgewater for Carolina obviously had the 6th best protection rate in 2020. And he had that's 15% higher than what Sam Darnold was. So in other words, Darnold's really good with clean pocket. A lot of the plays that Darnold did have a clean pocket as well, they were dump offs. Like the teams didn't have time to get the ball to him. So Jamison Crowder benefited from it, but it's essentially going to hurt the target premium and whatnot that you see from Jamison Crowder. It's going to hurt Sam Darnold's fantasy points. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that he needs an offensive line. I think Carolina is the perfect landing spot for him. I hope that they continue to focus on that offensive line to continue to protect him, because honestly, I don't think they need any more weapons. I think they'll be fine, just fine with Robbie Anderson, with DJ Moore, and whoever else they take in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round. I think that they are very comfortable. And honestly, like Ian Thomas, like he was a breakout candidate over the past couple of years. He hasn't really done it, but also they didn't ever pass the tight end. Like, I mean, sitting back and looking at it, like they just didn't utilize the tight end in that kind of system. And I didn't expect them to necessarily, and I don't expect them to again, but he still could be a weapon if they need him to be. A lot of the Curtis Samuel touch share took away from Ian Thomas.
Well, the problem with that is, and we don't know if it was the play calling again, because a lot of it could be Adam Gase. You could blame literally everything on Adam Gase, but Darnold didn't throw to Herndon either. And Herndon was a guy that we thought was going to be a breakout candidate last year. But again, the worst thing about Adam Gase is you almost have to discount absolutely everything that's happened under his tenure to any player, because you don't, especially a quarterback, you have no idea if it's the quarterback's fault, if it's the play calling, but you can assume it's the play calling and that it's Adam Gase, because he is the one consistent thing. Like wherever he went, bad fantasy things happened, and then when people escape, then good fantasy ththings happen. So
I think it's honestly, I think it's a bit overstated. Like I think Adam Gase sucks. Obviously, like I'm not hiring him. If I have zero interest, in ever seeing Adam Gase involved in offensive football whatsoever, not even in the CFL. But like, if we just go back through his career, right? So obviously, he did great with Peyton Manning, which earned him an entire undeserved career. then he goes to Chicago. He's like perfectly fine with Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler actually had a pretty decent season with Adam Gase. Jay Cutler, not really that great. And he was totally fine with Adam Gase. Then Adam Gase takes over Miami. He had a bit of success with Matt Moore. I mean, Matt Moore was like an actually effective quarterback in Miami under Adam Gase. Then, Ryan Tannehill, who showed some stuff in his early years, he regressed a little bit. That being said, like, I think that we've done a little bit too much here where we're transposing what happened with Ryan Tannehill, which, first of all, Tannehill pre-Gase was better than Darnold has been in his career. We've seen more out of Tannehill in Miami than we've seen out of Darnold as a New York Jet. And then what happened in Tennessee was, crazy. I don't think that we should learn that lesson, that's just applicable to any quarterback who is with Adam Gase and then is no longer with Adam Gase. Like, we shouldn't have expected Ryan Tannehill to become, by the metrics at least, a top 5 or top 10 quarterback in the NFL in Tennessee. That was shocking. Same as, we shouldn't have expected Josh Allen to go from a really inaccurate quarterback to one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. Sometimes guys work really hard and improve. And I think that's what we saw with Tannehill, as much as it was just the Gase effect. I mean, if you look at, we'll get to you, Shane. If you look at, expected points added per play, here were the worst quarterbacks in EPA per play last year. So Daniel Jones, 0.007, the James Bond of quarterbacks. Nick Foles, negative 0.041. Then Carson Wentz, negative 0.054. And then twice as bad as Carson Wentz, who was the second worst in the entire NFL in that metric, was Sam Darnold at negative 0.1. Horrible, like horrendous. If he improves that by half, he just gets the second worst. So I think we're going to need to see a significant improvement out of Darnold to get there in Carolina. Maybe that happens. I'm not saying that it's for sure not going to happen, but we haven't seen it with him. Like, we've seen elite production before out of a Wentz or a Goff. Shane, you can get in here now that my rant's done.
No. It was a good rant. So I don't think we're understating how bad or overstating how bad Adam Gase was, because I'm just looking at his coaching ranks. Just something simple. His best finish in scoring offense since 2015. Well, no, we'll go back to 2015 because that's the first year he didn't have Peyton Manning. Was 21st. That was his best. 21st, 24th, 29th, 30th, 25th, and 32nd. He's fucking trash in offensive yards. Without Peyton Manning, you're right. He did okay with Cutler, 16th in yards, then 29th, 25th, 30th, 27th, and 32nd. And his pace of play is really slow. So it's not even that everything about him is so bad that it's not. Look, you get a mulligan. Any player that's played under him gets a mulligan from me. You automatically,
except for the slot receiver.
He loves slot receivers.
But he caps the thing about, and I don't want to turn this into an Adam Gase show, so I kind of want to move on unless Christian has anything to add, is he just caps the upside of players. So, Cutler actually did regress slightly, and not a lot, but slightly under Gase, and he didn't have his highest receiver was 800 yards. The second was 464 yards, looking at it right now. So he just caps all of his players, and he doesn't get the most out of his players when it comes to trying to, I guess, perform at a fantasy level. So I'm just I'm a little bit happy that Darnold's getting out of a situation and into a situation where, quarterbacks thrive essentially. Like, even Ted Bridgewater had a somewhat decent NFL season in this system, but the system's built for quarterbacks.
I just see Mike Valverde in the chat says 4 first-round quarterbacks: Joey Harrington, David Carr, Christian Ponder, and Kyle Bowler. Shout out to Tom if you're listening for the Kyle Bowler. Have left their team after 3 seasons and did nothing after leaving. Can Sam Darnold break that trend? Christian, why don't you address that one and finish up our Darnold conversation here?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your definition of nothing, I guess. Like, if we're expecting Darnold to become a top 10 quarterback, I think we're failing. I don't think that's at least, I mean, that's 2 to 3 years away, and a lot of development has to happen. But going back to the Gase conversation, I think he was the worst possible coach they could have hired because he didn't have interest in developing Sam. He wanted to go win games. You would think. I mean, you would think that he wanted to win them. You couldn't tell. But I don't understand why they held on to him for so long when they were battling that rookie deal. And so then you have to cut ties, and then you're going to draft a guy that's very similar to Sam Darnold.
Well, let's talk about that. So it seems from all of the mock drafts and all of the big media, the media industrial complex, that Zach Wilson, the junior declare out of Brigham Young University, he of the headband, is seemingly a lock to go at the number 2 slot, with some members of big media saying that they like him even more than Trevor Lawrence, specifically Chris Sims, Gil Brandt. what do you guys make of this Zach Wilson thing? And I'll even just open it up. Why is Zach Wilson? I see Jeff in the chat calls him Mormon Manziel. Sorry, that just got me.
Yeah, me too.
Why do NFL teams like Zach Wilson so much? And what do you guys think of Zach Wilson, fantasy wise, assuming he's on the Jets, which seems like a pretty safe assumption? Let's start with Shane here.
You don't want me to say what I really think. I mean,
it depends. Is it PG-13?
I mean, look, it's Zach Wilson were black and Justin Fields were white. Justin Fields would be the second quarterback, if not the first. I mean, it's as simple as that. That's the NFL is still racist as fuck. You know what I mean? Look, it's a league that's 80% the players are African American. Look at the makeup of the front offices and the coaching. It's just they're still racist as fuck. It's just that simple. It's that simple. What's his name? Justin Fields has done absolutely nothing to fall from being the second rated quarterback in this class. Like from high school, like he's done nothing. Like he came out, he was the second best quarterback, with behind Trevor Lawrence. He's done absolutely nothing to make you think that he's not at least the second best quarterback in this class. But he's not white, and it's more fun for the NFL to draft guys that look like their kids.
You know what, Shane? I couldn't agree more. And, I don't think anyone here has watched more Justin Fields tape than Christian. So I'm going to get him in on the tape side of things after this. But just analytically speaking, like Justin Fields had a QBR last year, 92.1. That's in the 96th percentile. And it was even higher the year prior in his at his age 20 year. So if you're looking at quarterbacks that posted that kind of stat, age 20, age 21, especially doing it at Ohio State in the Big Ten, in a pro-style offense, which people forget. People still think it's the Urban Meyer team. That's not been the case for a while. The only players that have been able to put up similar statistical seasons at the same age that he did, unlike a Mac Jones, who came and did it at 22 in his first year full-time as a starter, unlike a Zach Wilson, who struggled for 2 years and then started to put up that type of figure, in his junior year, who did it for 2 years. It's like Baker Mayfield, Tua, Andrew Luck, Sam Bradford, Marcus Mariota, not quite as good. Phillip Rivers, not quite as good. Like, that's the list. And it's guys that usually go first overall. And it's guys that usually have a lot of NFL success. If Justin Fields had prosthetic legs, he would still be a first-round quarterback to me. I don't care about him running the 4-5. It's great. I'm happy that he did. It's great for fantasy especially. But he's a terrific quarterback in his own right. And why the NFL continues to go for these more traditional pocket passers, whether it's intentional racism, I don't know. But systemically, it has to be that way because we've seen it, right? We've seen it with Trubisky. 1-year wonder, gets drafted ahead of Mahomes and Watson, who had significantly better college profiles. Then Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold get drafted, ahead of Lamar Jackson. And this year, it's even more blatant because Justin Fields is a better prospect than Deshaun Watson was. He's a better prospect than Mahomes was. He's a better prospect than Jackson was by the numbers as a passer. And that has nothing to do with his rushing upside, which should only be a bonus. So that's me from the analytical point of view, at least. Christian, I pitch it to you to continue the Justin Fields train. And you can talk about Wilson, too, if you want, because I know we haven't addressed him nearly enough.
Yeah, well, he doesn't need to be addressed that much. He gets addressed enough. No, I'm just kidding. I do think that's, you hit the nail on the head, Shane. I think that it's racism. I think that you're going to see 3 white quarterbacks go before Trey Lance or Justin Fields, who are better than 2 of the white quarterbacks, and Justin Fields is better than all of the white quarterbacks. It's not something that I try to put out there because I try to give the NFL the benefit of the doubt. I don't know why, because they've just shown us time and time again that that's how they're going to draft, and that's okay. They're going to be wrong, and some team is going to be very lucky to get quarterback 1 Justin Fields. You brought up analytics with Justin Fields. Everything on film matches it. People talk about how he can't read the field. They don't know what they're talking about. He reads the field probably, I would say, better than anyone in this class outside of, I think Trey Lance actually does read the field very well, and he takes care of the football. You didn't see that in the one game that he played, and it's been so long since Trey Lance played a football game that recency bias is going to push him down the list for some. But Justin Fields, his footwork is amazing. His accuracy, there's no more accurate quarterback in this class. People are basically knocking him because he's black and because he played at Ohio State, because we've never seen an Ohio State quarterback that's been good. Well, he was a Georgia recruit. He was not an Ohio State recruit. I don't even think Urban Meyer looked at him, which doesn't shock me either based on the conversation that we've had already. But I do think that him going to Ohio State has definitely knocked him in the eyes of NFL evaluators, because I've read some of that. I don't remember who posted the article on The Athletic, but they got like coaches' feedback and scouts' feedback. And one of the scouts admitted to helmet scouting. They said, we've never seen an Ohio State quarterback do anything, and that's in the back of your mind. Well, it shouldn't be. If you're actually good at evaluating talent, you know that Justin Fields is far superior to at least Zach Wilson, at least Mac Jones. You can make an argument for Trevor Lawrence. It's close enough for me that I can make an argument that Trevor Lawrence is better than Justin Fields. I won't, because Justin Fields, in my opinion, is better. So, you guys hit the nail on the head for sure.
I mean, just imagine we're living in a world where if Steve Young was an NFL bust and Art Schlichter didn't gamble his money away, all of a sudden Ohio State has one great quarterback and Brigham Young none. I mean, what world is it that we're prioritizing, Brigham Young University, which is probably a lot closer to North Dakota State in terms of the field of competition than it is Ohio State, and this guy ends up going. Chase, let's get you in here. What are your thoughts on Wilson, Fields, and do you have maybe a different perspective than the rest of us here?
Mac Jones at his rate and the way that he's climbing is probably going to end up going number 2, maybe number 1, just because of his, the incline of where he's been climbing. No, I'm totally kidding. I have Justin Fields as my number 2 quarterback. I don't think you pass up on a generational talent, essentially, in Trevor Lawrence. I do think that he is like that good. I know that, it might not end up that way by the way it's said and done, because maybe Justin Fields slips all the way to Carolina in a dream scenario. That's where he can sit for 1 year, which I don't even know if he does. I think it's a quarterback controversy right off the bat, and he'll end up winning that competition with Sam Darnold. Although I do like Sam Darnold, I like Justin Fields that much more. So, I think that right now he will actually go number 3 to San Francisco. And I think all this shit that you're hearing is just shit to get everybody thinking that they're going to go Mac Jones. So that way the Jets don't look too much more into, Zach Wilson.
What do you think, you guys, Christian, and then we'll get Shane after on this? Because you mentioned 3 to the 49ers, right? I think that's the breaking point where we're looking at. Is it going to be Fields? Is it going to be Jones? Is it going to be Lance? And it feels like a lot of big draft all seems to think that it is, and many of them think also that it should be Mac Jones, right? What do you think of Mac Jones first, just individually? Because I think to some sense it's almost unfair, where when everyone thought Mac Jones was going to be the 5th quarterback on the board, I was like, oh, Mac Jones, he's actually pretty good. And then now that he's the 3rd, it's like, okay, well, this guy, get him out of here. But what do you think of Mac Jones first, just individually? And also, why would it be such a ridiculous decision if they took him over Justin Fields?
He's not a first-round quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I know someone was in my mentions today citing, well, him and Joe Burrow had the same stats. Him and Joe Burrow did not make the same throws. If you watch Mac Jones's tape, his deep ball, he gets bailed out by Devontae Smith. He got bailed out from Jalen Waddle in the 4 games that he played. Mac Jones, his accuracy numbers are propped up by phenomenal receivers. Like, I know that analytics crew might not think so, but they are good receivers. They're good at the point of attack, at the catch point. Mac Jones definitely benefited from that, and he also benefited from an RPO scheme that had free receivers running all over the field. People talk about how Mac Jones can read a field. Do we know? He was throwing to guys that were literally, they had 10 yards of cushion and 20 yards of separation. Like it wasn't super impressive to me. His arm talent is not even close to the other 4 guys.
To your point, it wasn't the same level of talent on defense either, because of the opt-outs and whatnot.
Right. And I think, Burrow, like, just taking that back for a second, Burrow was making NFL throws. Like, he was putting the ball in good positions, at least short to intermediate. His deep ball, of course, he had Jamar Chase, he had Justin Jefferson, he had Terrace Marshall. So, like, he had a good crew as well. But my my other retort was, should Joe Burrow have been the number 1 overall pick last year? And no, I mean, I think we know that already, that Justin Herbert's tools have already translated better than Joe Burrow's did. Joe Burrow was not very good last year. So why would Mac Jones, who's a worse version of Joe Burrow, be better than the athletic guys with the traits? And it just doesn't make much sense. And I do want to say, like you mentioned, it's not fair because as the 5th quarterback off the board, I love Mac Jones. I think he would have been great to the Saints at the end of the first. I think he would have been great to, like, even the Bears would have been a good position for him so he could learn under the great Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. Like, that would have been awesome for him. But I don't think he's a day 1 starter, and I think maybe the 49ers don't think so either. It worries me. It worries me that they are going to take Mac Jones over Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I don't understand it. I just can't comprehend.
Shane, can you be the shining light of optimism that you usually are in my life, on this show, in your personal life? Tell me, why is Mac Jones, being misunderstood by the rest of us here,
he's
and actually an elite quarterback?
He wins. He's a winner. No, I mean, I can't pretend to be a scout, right? But watching.
I think you can. They use it's a Mad Lib.
Watching his pro day, it's like, oh, you're airmailing it over all these guys, like every other throw, whatever. Okay. All I know is he's gonna be drafted 2nd overall or 3rd overall, and I'm gonna have to draft him high in my fantasy football super flex leagues because it really doesn't matter if I think he's any good. He's going to get the shot and he's going to get the opportunity. Now, is he going to be Mitch Trubisky looking for a new team in 4 years? Probably. But I think everyone in my league knows that too. So they're also still going to draft Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Zach Wilson over him. I still think he'll be the 5th quarterback off the board in Superflex leagues. Now, where I used to think that I was going to be able to get him at the 111, 112 in Superflex leagues, now I'm thinking it's probably I have to go to the 106, which hurts a little bit. And it will definitely make me think, do I really, really want to pick him? And just remind myself, like, we've been here before. Remember Mitch Trubisky? Like, you didn't like him, but you drafted him high because he went 2nd overall. Remember Daniel Jones? You didn't like him, but you drafted him high because they drafted him 5th overall or wherever they drafted him. So, I agree, William. I'm sorry. I like the next comment. Yeah. All right. Sorry, guys.
Let's quickly get Chase in. We'll end this, and then I see a bunch of folks in the chat. Tom Lee, our Australian correspondent, wants to talk about Amon Ross St. Brown. So,
Crikey.
Chase, why don't you give us the final word here on Mac Jones, and then we'll get talking about some other guys, and we'll start off with St. Brown there for Tom.
If he made it to 19 where Washington selects, I would not want Washington to take him. And I'm just going to say that.
Okay, that's pretty definitive final word.
Can I say one thing, Jacob? I'm sorry.
Please, Christian, please.
So to that last comment that was up there from William, I think we're overstating how much Shanahan can get out of his quarterbacks based on Jimmy Garoppolo the last few years. I don't think he's as quarterback guru as people tend to think. And if you're taking Mac Jones, you have to be. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, I agree with that because I've seen this take. Like I've seen it take even.
I don't know.
No, okay. Well, we'll get to St. Brown in a second because now we're gonna have the coach worship conversation. I've seen this take where it's like whoever San Francisco takes, they're my QB2 because I trust Kyle Shanahan more than I trust myself. And I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the better offensive coordinators and offensive game planners for sure in the league. I absolutely think that. But you can only go so far, right? Like Sean McVay, we all think he's great, and Jared Goff has been terrible for the last couple of years. I don't think that's McVay's fault. And McVay decided, yeah, Goff, you're terrible. I actually need a good quarterback because I can't just do this with anybody. And Kyle Shanahan, as an evaluator, I mean, what do we have to go off of Kyle Shanahan, talent evaluator? He was an offensive coordinator for years. He finally got a head coach. The first quarterback he went and thought it was Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a pile of crap. So I don't know.
He's been hurt for the majority of the time.
He has.
Yeah.
And he hasn't had receivers for the other portion of the time. So it's not like you can't base that off of Jimmy Garoppolo. What?
I mean, he has Kittle, who's the best tight end in football. And he had Debo, who was really solid. He had Emmanuel Sanders 2 years ago. Then he gets Ayuk this year. I don't think he's been struggling.
Emmanuel
that
Sanders
hard.
was coming off of a torn ACL. Debo Samuel was a rookie. George Kittle was not that yet broken out, but yet he still got production out of him for the first time in his career.
Oh, good for Jimmy. He got production out of
I
George
zoned out.
Kittle.
Wait,
Congrats.
you're saying Jimmy Garoppolo is good?
What?
Did you start on a Jimmy Garoppolo is good rant?
No, I'm saying that
okay.
Kyle Shanahan is getting the most out of the guys that he possibly can, and that he's turning these options who would not be options in normal offenses into actual like primary options, like Pierre Garçon.
Pierre Garçon was excellent for a couple of seasons.
He was not awesome.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He was very good for a couple seasons.
For a couple
great
seasons.
Indy.
Kirk
He was
Cousins.
better in Washington.
He made Kirk Cousins good, right?
He was very good in Indy.
McVay being the offense coordinator at the time.
I'm sorry, I started this.
Don't be. This is good.
No,
I don't.
Kyle Shanahan is the reason why Jimmy Garoppolo is actually halfway decent versus being complete garbage.
Sure,
And-
but that's a different thing, right? I'm saying Kyle Shanahan is a good schemer. Is he a good talent evaluator? Is my question, and that's the thing. He decided he could have gone after anyone. He decided I'm going after Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe he made Jimmy Garoppolo better than an average offensive coordinator would have. But the thing is, he got to choose his guy, and he didn't choose a very good guy. So why would we now believe that he's going to make the right choice?
He got a guy who was serviceable, who did the job that he wanted him to do, and he gave him a second-round pick. And Jimmy Garoppolo was not healthy, like outside of maybe 1 year, which, by the way, they got to the Super Bowl with. So
not because of Jimmy, though. They could have
no, they had a great defense and they had a great system, but he was serviceable. He did what he wanted him to do. Kyle Shanahan is never going to have like a quarterback one essentially outside of some freak year like Matt Ryan had.
But he could this year. He could just draft Justin Fields and then
It's
have
not
one
what
for
he
15
wants.
years.
It's not what he wants. That's
So
not what he's trying to do.
You think Kyle Shanahan wants bad quarterbacks?
No, I think he wants quarterbacks that can make sure that they operate in the same sense that he operates and run the offense in the same way that he wants the offense to be run. And I don't know that Justin Fields offers that, but I already told you guys, I think that Justin Fields goes to the 49ers at 3.
No, you're wrong.
By the way, I'm all on board with Justin Fields going there. I think that's going to happen. I think the rumor is getting put out there and the smoke's getting put out there so the Jets would not trade back just in case they would trade back, which I don't know that the Jets ever had an intention to, but it was still probably open. They probably told everybody that just to, make, the Jets not take Justin Fields essentially if that was going to be an option for them, because I think that's the only quarterback that Kyle Shanahan would take. I mean, maybe Lance, but yeah, I feel like Justin Fields is the perfect fit in that offense, to be honest with you. I just think that Kyle Shanahan makes quarterbacks better. Now, if Mac Jones goes there, by the way, I'm not drafting Mac Jones because that's not what Kyle Shanahan does with his players. Like, he doesn't ask them to go out and make big-time plays, right? He asks them to go out there and be efficient, and that's what he wants in his quarterback. Now, if Justin Fields lands there, then he can scheme an offense around Justin Fields, which is why I think he goes there. I will be drafting Justin Fields.
All right. Thank you, Chase, for the explanation.
And I want our viewers and listeners to understand, Chase does not have any inside knowledge of what San Francisco is going to do. All indications are that they love Mac Jones. They want to hump his face so hard, and he's going to be on that roster. So it wouldn't make sense at this point for them to basically be concealing what they want to do. It wouldn't make sense. Like I don't see how it would even benefit them at this point. But that's just me.
Let's leave it there for now. If anyone else in the chat has any other quarterback related queries, definitely let us know. Otherwise, I think this has been fun. We're going to talk about Pitts in a bit, but first, Tom Lee, you've been waiting. You wanted to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Let's scroll back up.
And it's been a while, so I apologize. We're going to stay in California. We're driving a little bit south from San Francisco down to Los Angeles. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. Tom Lee says he seems to be a seamless fit in most NFL offenses. Haven't seen anyone high or low on him. Where are you guys at with the sun god? Christian, we'll start with you.
He's my wide receiver 7, I believe, right now. I think I actually have Elijah Moore right ahead of him, but Amon-Ra is a guy. I actually talked with Anthony Corrente from Dynasty Drive last week. We had a little Amon-Ra pump-up session because we all loved him. Just a very efficient player that is going to do good things in the league. He's not going to be flashy out there, but he's a unique type of slot receiver that's going to go win vertically as well, and you don't really see that. people give the Juju Smith-Schuster comp, which feels lazy because they both went to USC, but that's the same receiver, except I think Amon-Ra is probably more athletic and probably a better red zone threat, which is saying something because Juju's pretty good in that nature. If Pittsburgh used Juju correctly, I think he would be a little bit better. But Amon-Ra is a guy. I've seen Robert Woods comps as well. I love Amon-Ra. I'm going to have him everywhere.
Everyone that played at USC.
Yep, pretty much. Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you think like that's kind of scouting the uniform, but in a sense, they all have run in the same offense and kind of have been coached up the same way. So they have the same like traits and abilities, and that's how they were coached. But yeah, it's tough to make those comps. I'm trying to figure out one that I like that's not a USC comp, but
Marquise Lee. Oh wait.
well,
I actually kind of like the Marquise Lee one, like to an extent. I think Marquise Lee was a little bit more athletic, but I popped in the tape for 2020 and I just didn't see anything from him like at all. Like I was like, why does everybody like him so much? And I only scout for players that are coming out that year. I've just started doing actual Devy stuff later in this past year, but I still do all the scouting processes when it comes to watching the game film the year that they're coming out. And yeah, the 2020 season, I was like, why does everybody like him? So I actually turned off the tape and went to the next receiver. And then I kept on seeing hype on him. So I popped in the 2019 tape and I was like, dude, okay. Now it's starting to make sense because he's making plays. He's getting open. He wasn't the primary target, by the way, which, because Michael Pittman was. And so that made a lot of sense as he was able to go up against the, secondary corner and not see as much attention. So he did rise up my board, but he's still sitting there wide receiver 59 overall for me in Dynasty League, just one slot ahead of Bryan Edwards. So
can you give us
a
a rookie rank, Chase?
all right. So I have, all right, like I'll give you the ones that I have right now. It's like Rondale Moore, or the ones that are after like the first few. So I have like Rondale Moore, Terrace Marshall, Kadarius Toney, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, then Amon St. Ra. But that's like, I think that's like probably right around the same like 7, 8, 9 range, I'm guessing, after the first 3 or 4. So yeah, we'll say wide receiver 10 or 11.
All right.
So I'm not
Shane,
that far behind, but I don't think he can be an alpha wide receiver on a team. And so that's why he's definitely going to fall the second round for me in rookie drafts.
Shaner, what do you think of Amon-Ra here? And I'll give my take last.
I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, mostly because of his name. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's literally the first thing you notice. You're like, oh, this dude better be fucking good. And then he was. He broke out as almost a 19-year-old, 18.9. Sorry, Jacob. I know you were probably going to tell me that already.
What am I even here for now?
It's just after that, he kind of flatlined. Like, you know what I mean? Like his production didn't increase incredibly. It didn't decrease. Obviously last year's a kind of an outlier because he played however many games. But I like the Robert Woods comp because Robert Woods isn't a physical specimen. And neither is St. Brown. But I still like him a lot. Now, where I rank him doesn't matter because I won't have to draft him as early as I have him ranked, basically, is what I'm trying to say in English. I can draft him in probably the late second round, and I'll be good with that. But if you held a gun to my head and you were like, you have to rank these wide receivers, I'd put him at 5.
5? Wow, all right.
I like it.
I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, like, I'm sort of torn in the sense that, we talked to Drew last week, Drew Ozenchuk at DF Bean Counter on Twitter. And he loves Amon-Ra St. Brown as him as a bulletproof prospect, because if you're sort of from the Drew school, Peter Howard's another guy who's very much production only in terms of where he puts the emphasis in analytics. And I'm sure Amon-Ra St. Brown grades out really highly for Peter, if I had to guess. Because if you look at just the production, I mean, there's only 3 guys in this class, I believe, that broke out as freshmen. And that's Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are the only 3. So you have a freshman breakout, 18-year-old breakout age. That already puts him in that elite company. The production, like Shane said, it didn't drastically go up, like we saw out of a Bateman, but it was at least sustained. And so it's a really, really solid profile production-wise. What I question, he ran a 4.6. 4.51, I think, was the official. So 4.56. Frame by frame, I saw had him at 4.6 on the nose. Whatever. He's not a burner, but that's fine. It's not how he wins. I mean, I think he's just one of those guys that probably his lifelong identity is to be underdrafted, just in the sense that, you know, he's a really solid, kind of like a T. Higgins was last year, in the sense that he just had this pretty strong profile. Didn't have the flashy athleticism, wasn't always in the news, had a really cool name like T, you know. And people just sort of draft these other guys who are a little bit flashier. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown probably goes in round 2, and like in the NFL draft. And I think he's probably got a really good chance of being a top 24 wide receiver in the NFL. I have him as my wide receiver 7 on my board. I have him in tier 3, but I have him ahead of guys like De'Ami Brown and Elijah Moore. Just in the sense that I think he's a really, really safe option. If you want a guy who's going to be a top 12 wide receiver, I don't know about that. I think he would have to be in a spot like a Tyler Boyd was early last year. And that's right now who I have him comp to, where he's really in a high volume passing offense with a good passing offense that's force feeding him targets. Because I don't see him as a guy who's like a high yards per reception guy. I don't think he's going to be like 18 yards per reception. But
you do not have him comp to Tyler Boyd.
I do have him comp to Tyler Boyd.
Oh, that's
who I have him comp to.
Oh, well, then that's great.
I was about to pull it up on the share screen. He's Tyler Boyd, but a more athletic, somebody that has a little bit more burst. But yeah, I was literally about to pull this up.
What do you guys think of Tyler Boyd? Now that we have 2 out of 4 on the Amon-Ra to Boyd comp train.
I don't think Boyd can go up and win at the catch point as well. Okay. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty good comp. It's not a USC player, right? Where did Boyd go to school? I forget.
He went to Pitt.
Pitt, yeah.
So we're good to go. Full send.
And he's probably going to be drafted around the same spot. Tyler Boyd was taken in the late 2nd round. Ross St. Brown will probably be taken late 2nd, early 3rd. If I had to put some draft capital to his name, I mean, every route that I've looked at, all the tape that I watched, I just felt like I was watching another version of Tyler Boyd with just slightly more explosion. So I just think that, we could see him play that number 2 role somewhere. Similar to Juju Smith-Schuster, who I don't think is off as well. I think you brought up earlier.
I think Juju actually is the best comp. I just refuse to do game schools comps because it just drives me nuts, but I actually think it fits. Let's move on quick here. Oh, actually, let's just stick with the questions here. Jamie Parag asks, if Cincinnati Bengals take Jamar Chase, then Boyd takes a big hit in fantasy. Let's extend that out, if you're all right with that, Jamie, to both Boyd and T. Higgins. If Jamar Chase is taken to Cincinnati, how would that make you feel about Higgins and Boyd? Let's start with Christian.
Man, that's a reason why I've been kind of lower on both of those guys in general, because I think they are. I don't think they're drafting offensive line. I really don't. I've said that for a while now. I think Jonah Williams is actually pretty good at left tackle. He put on some good film. There are people that argue with me about that, but so that means that they can pick a luxury pick, and they run so many 4 wide receiver sets that it would make sense because they lost AJ Green. They don't really have. I mean, they still have Auden Tate this year, I believe, who I actually like a decent amount. But if you have the opportunity to take Pitts or Jamar Chase, then you do it, and in that sense, like he's the one at that point, especially if it's Chase with the Burrow connection from LSU. So
I'm inclined to agree. Shane, let's get a rapid fire reaction here because we're running out of time.
Sorry,
real quick.
Why the fuck did AJ Green get 104 targets last year? Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, I think it'll hurt everyone on that offense in the sense that Joe Burrow is going to fucking die. If they don't go offensive line. And even if Jonah Williams is good, Penny Sewell, however you say his name, I'm sure it's wrong, however I said it, is supposed to be like generational, right? Like, I don't understand how you would pass that up. He's easily the best tackle in this draft, right? And it's your biggest need. Like, your 2 wide receivers, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, you're okay, dude. You're fine. Get someone that's going to protect, the quarterback you just spent a number 1 pick on. The end.
No, I've been a Washington fan for way too long, and I know how this story goes. When you select a quarterback in the first round, you don't protect him. So, it's with the 24th overall protection rate, it makes me really nervous for Joe Burrow that people are even talking about it, but I think it's a smokescreen. I don't even think that if Penny Sewell comes off the board somehow before then, I don't know how they don't take who's the second guy? Is that Darisaw? Slater. Yeah. Rashawn Slater. Yeah. So I don't see any route that they actually go Jamar Chase. If they do, it creates a hindrance on the Bengals in about 4 years from now, because typically, not always, but typically teams will invest a certain amount of money into certain positions. And if they invest that much money into the wide receiver position, not only are they going to lose Tyler Boyd, which is fine, that's not a big deal. They're going to replace him anyways. But now you still have to sign a tackle, whether that's left or right. If Darnold Williams is your left, you still have to bring in a high-end right tackle along with the rest of the offensive line. And now your cap and everything is all tied into the offense. And I know that it's a little bit of a hindrance, but or a little bit of a myth. But essentially, when you look at these teams and you see which teams are good at offense, good at defense, you just look at their cap and it will tell you 99% of the time where their money's tied up. So with that being said, I think that they could take a receiver in the second round, third round, maybe even fourth round and be completely fine with it, especially a field stretcher, which is what they're lacking after losing John Ross, although he never did that for them. They still need a speed guy to get deep. And Jamar Chase has wheels on him, but he's not – you don't want him as your deep target. It's like using Jerry Jeudy as your deep target. That's not something you want. So,
all right. I think that'll probably do it on that one. Last topic here. I think we only got a few minutes here because I know Christian.
We can go
on another show.
Oh, okay.
So we actually can't go all night. But I promised the audience some Kyle Pitts talk before the show. So if Cincy does not take Penei Sewell, if they do not take Jamar Chase, maybe they take Kyle Pitts. And maybe you're also thinking about how high you should take Kyle Pitts. We'll start with Christian because I know you have a take on this. If I was to tell you you're in a single quarterback league and Kyle Pitts is available at the 101, well, okay, that's an idiotic statement. Of course, he's available at the 101. Everyone's available at the 101. If I'm telling you someone takes Kyle Pitts at the 101 in a single quarterback league, is that absolutely bonkers? We'll start with you, and then a quick word from the rest of us, and then we'll be out.
It's not. I wrote an article in January or February that if I'm in a super flex draft, he's my 103. I would take him over Lance, Wilson, Jones. People are going to say tight ends don't produce as rookies. Tight ends aren't Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is not tight end. Those two things are independent of each other. Kyle Pitts, if he's used as a traditional tight end, yes, you're going to be disappointed. But teams have to know what they're getting with Kyle Pitts. So I would take him 101 in single QB, and I would take him 103 in Superflex. And I know that not a lot of people agree with that, but I would do it because the positional value, if he hits, I mean, you have a Kelsey, you have a Waller, you have a Kittle, and you drafted it at proper value, his value is only going to go up. And so, yeah, I see that. I do recommend you go read my Kyle Pitts is the 103 in Superflex. It's on the cutffb.com. I broke down some of his film. I brought in some analytics. A lot of people said it was crazy that I mentioned Travis Kelce's name, but we have not seen a tight end prospect like Kyle Pitts in a very long time. You could argue that Vernon Davis was that, but I think like if he goes to Cincinnati, I'm drafting him 103. If he goes to Atlanta, I'm especially drafting him 103, and I'm talking in Superflex. So I love Pitts. I love him.
Shane, are you with Angie Spencer, who's in the chat and said that Christian is cray-cray or craw-craw, one of the two?
Craw-craw.
Or what do you think of Pitts?
No, because as I was doing the Kyle Pitts, I was doing his rookie write-up for DLF last week.
I love how we've turned this into the plug section. Everyone's just talking about how much they're writing about Kyle Pitts.
It's leading somewhere, dickface. So I'm watching film. I'm watching film again. Not a film guy.
You watch film
when someone's special.
What he means is he was watching YouTube highlight videos.
No.
It's a place to start.
And just looking at it, his stats, his analytical breakout, all that good stuff. Dude is a fucking monster. And I even tweeted out, like, there's not a draft that I'm in that he's going to fall below 103. Unless I'm absolutely desperate for a quarterback, I can talk myself into drafting Pitts. I have an FFPC league where it's small rosters. It's a premium, just 1.5 points. But I'm thinking about taking him at 101. because is Najee Harris generational? No. Is Jamar Chase? Maybe.
Najee's been a part of like 6 generations because he's
right.
an ancient
But
prospect.
yeah, Pitts is he's and it's not just fantasy people that think he's a stud. It's scouts. It's NFL scouts. This guy like Daniel Jeremiah. You know what I mean?
Not a scout, he's a radio.
Like everyone loves this kid. Everyone has him as in their top 3 or 4 prospects. So the only place you shouldn't draft him is 101 in a super flex league.
I agree.
Like one of my leagues today, we kicked off, or yesterday, I don't know, but a gentleman drafted Kyle Pitts at 101, allowing Trevor Lawrence to fall to Scott Barrett. So that was awful. Don't do that. But 103, I got no problem in Superflex. And like I said, in 1 quarterback leagues, I could take him at 101.
All right. Thanks, Shane. I know we got to wrap up for Christian. So Chase, 1-word answer. Kyle Pitts 103, yes or no?
No.
Who is your 103?
Are we talking Superflex?
Yeah, Superflex. So Fields
Najee
and Lawrence
Harris.
are gone.
This
Najee
is
Harris?
very landing spot dependent, essentially. So if these, like, for example, if Najee Harris
So much
lands
for
up
1-word
with
answer.
Pittsburgh, I'm not on that train.
You're not on the train in Pittsburgh? That's
No.
my dream landing
No
spot
offensive line. He's going to get hit time and time again. They already have Juju Smith-Schuster, which they use in short yardage situations. It's like it's not a place that I would like to see him.
All right, that's some bonus Harris coverage. I think we'll probably talk a lot about the running backs
Jeff.
next week. Let's end it here. Christian, I know you got to run, so where can we find you? And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I love doing these, and I just love talking football. So anytime you guys want to have me back, I would love to come on. You can find me at C Williams NFL. All of my work can be found at the Cut FFB on Twitter or thecutffb.com. I'm also writing articles for Fantasy Pros. The links in my Fantasy Pros articles are not quite right yet. Shout out Jeff, who's still in here. Jeff and I work on some articles together. We're working on some Debbie stuff. So a lot of stuff coming. Draft guide is coming. It'll be on the website here in the next 2 weeks. So
that's awesome. Make sure to go check all of that out. Chase, where can we find you?
FF_intervention, of course. Join our circle _. I've got a big article coming out, waiting for Jacob to actually do the SEO stuff on it. But
that's true.
Should be out, I don't know, within the next 3 weeks or so.
I'm going to do it like tonight, tomorrow morning. We're out here in the middle of final season. He's picking on me. Shane, where can we find you?
At Shane is the worst. That's me.
Is that all you got for us?
I mean, you don't want me to list all this shit I do. We'll be here all night.
Okay. That is actually what I wanted you to do. But all right. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Christian, for joining us. Thank you, Chase. Thank you, chat. We'll be excited next week. We're going to keep talking draft. So I haven't made a show sheet yet. If you want to get in touch with me, if there's any players you want us to talk about ahead of time, positions, queries, subjects, let me know. If you want to give a wait, am I the only one on screen right now? What happened to this? Jesus. All right, whatever. You can find me FF_RTDB. You can find my work on Join Our Circle. You can find some of my work on Player Profiler. And then look at that. That's Chase looking pretty. Are you having fun on StreamYard, buddy? Look at you. There you go. All right.
Dude, Christian's got to go. What are you doing?
That's going to wrap.
Bye, Christian.
Thanks a lot for joining
Bye,
us, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.